And we're back. That was the Meters with Sophisticated Sissy from their very first album from 1969. And before that, we heard The Mob from Look a Pie Pie, their second album, and Britches from Struttin', their third album. So the Meters were together basically until 1977. That's kind of how that
Yeah, I
worked.
think that's pretty close to of the actual run of time. Yeah, I think I kind of I remember that the band broke up. Well, I shouldn't say the band didn't break up, but Art left the band on our way home after the recording session with the New Directions recording session.
Okay.
Um, and I'm always confused of exactly when that session happened. um, but let's
But you
see,
were
I was
together. You did. I'm not sure how many albums you guys did. But it evolved and it changed a lot over the years. It sort of became the sound. A lot of it became the sound because Cyril Neville and Art Neville were in the band. It sort of became the sound that the Neville brothers adopted and sort of ran with later. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree that probably anything after Fire on the Bayou recording that had seemingly had a little more of Cyril's influence on the writing by the other guys, because Zig and Leo at this point in time were now writing songs directed at Cyril being the lead singer for them.
Right, and and whereas the first few albums had very few vocals, this was almost all vocal stuff by the
Correct,
end of it.
correct,
Right.
correct. Rejuvenation probably was the very first beginning of the being a vocal group. Cabbage Alley, Cabbage Alley had probably half and half vocals versus instrumentals, but the Rejuvenation record was like at that point we were a vocal band now.
All right, all right. Now, do you have a favorite Meters album? Looking back, I have to ask this stuff. You know,
Looking
I have to
back,
ask this.
I think Rejuvenation probably would be that favorite record. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And that was what year?
Good question.
I mean, I can look it up. I should have
You
looked it
have to
up.
look that one up because
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
I want to say that's around 1974, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
looking.
sure.
While we're talking, I'm looking at my website, and I have to have. I'm gonna have to have David update my website as far as putting the dates, the release dates of these records.
Well, let's move along and let's talk about something that's really some really amazing stuff. The folks that you played with outside of the Meters, it would have been enough if you just did those albums with the Meters. You would still be, one of the most amazing players of all time, and the guys in the band would be. And a lot of these sessions that you've done have actually involved the whole band, the early '70s stuff that I assume you did with Alan Toussaint involved, or at least some of it.
Yeah.
But you've played with so many people, and I've heard all these stories about how the Meters were the Rolling Stones' favorite band, the Meters were Paul McCartney's favorite band, the Meters were Led Zeppelin's favorite band. It's just pretty amazing that a band that didn't actually receive as wide a recognition as it really deserved was so huge. Well, of course, then the influence on like Little Feat or something like that, you can definitely hear that influence very heavily, and you
Yeah.
influenced so many bands. But the list of people that you played with is just amazing. And I don't know if there's anybody in here we want to talk about specifically, but I have a list here. If you don't mind, I'm going to just read some of these off.
Okay.
All right. Paul McCartney, Robbie Robertson, Tori Amos, John Scofield, Taj Mahal, The Seven Walkers with Papa Malley and Bill Kreutzmann, Alan Toussaint, Lee Dorsey, Government Mule, David Byrne, Irma Thomas, Ruthie Foster, Albert King, the Headhunters, and I guess you're playing with the Tedeschi Trucks Band coming up at the end of next month, right?
Yeah, that would be a live performance thing only.
Okay, all right. We talked briefly about the Paul McCartney thing before we got on the air here. So my understanding was that you played bass on a Paul McCartney album. Now that is apparently not particularly
That is
true.
absolutely untrue. Yeah.
Okay, I just wondered about that one. So let's talk about the situation there. Paul was recording in New Orleans.
Yeah, Paul was in New Orleans recording Venus and Mars record, and I want to say that probably like around 1974 or something like that. And and towards the end of, and it was during Mardi Gras time when that record was being done, and so the band had done a version of what what they call the Mardi Gras song, some sort of a tribute to Mardi Gras.
Okay.
And I never was really clear on who came up with the idea of putting parade sound or street sounds towards the ending of the song. It could have been Earl King, because Paul and Earl used to kind of talk a lot, but it happened. That's what basically boiled down, is that towards the end of the song, they got a whole bunch of us. We went in the studio with cowbells and tambourines and hitting on bottles and and stuff like that, and making basically making a sound of a second line, going toward when the song is starting to go out, fade out. Then this street sound that's happening of just people making noise on the street and clicking cowbells and beating on cans and stuff. So I'm one of the cowbell players in that section. That's my recording history with Paul McCartney.
Wow. All right. So these other ones that I mentioned, though, you did play bass.
The other ones I played bass on. Yeah.
Right. And so
yeah, it would have been Harry Connick Jr., Solomon Burke, Maceo Parker. Some of the local guys.
I'm sorry, I missed those. Those were huge ones too.
David Byrne. Yeah.
Yep. Well, now we're going to play a few songs that you've played on that people might not realize that you played on. A couple of them you picked out, a couple of them I picked out, and we'll play 4 songs that you played on, and then after that, maybe we could talk about the individual situation or wherever we go from there. But let's play these tunes. We'll start off with from 1974 from the album Nightbirds, LaBelle with Lady Marmalade. We're talking to George Porter Jr. You're listening to The Burnt Toast Show. Here's LaBelle on The Burnt Toast Show.